Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Red Circle and the Taboo Change the World. So, we all know that our children are our future. That is just the only way we're going to change the world is by helping our kids be more open, less taboo-y, just better freaking kids. We'll have a better world, and we know that. But how do you talk about taboos to your kids, right? Like, it's awkward and it's weird and it feels like I don't know what to do and I don't know how to do this. So I thought that a very important part of the summit would be how do we talk to our kids and how do we broach the topics of taboos and make them comfortable so that this isn't some legacy that we hand down and that other women don't have to go through what we did growing up and our men can actually understand what's coming for their girlfriends and wives and sisters. So I decided to bring on Marilou, who is one of the fucking nicest people I have ever met in my entire life. Laugh, but it's true. And she's going to talk to us today about how to actually talk to your kids. And believe me when I say she knows. She is a mom of 3 boys, has a husband, so really a mom of 4 boys, and she is just doing some amazing things. We're going to talk about her period and her foot massage routine that she's worked out, and you're going to be yes, and you're going to want to know everything she has to say. So, Marilou, thank you so much for being on the summit with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. I have one question to kick it off for us. What does the word taboo mean to you?
What does the word taboo mean to me? Basically, for me, the word taboo is stuff that we just can't talk about. And having grown up in a Middle Eastern culture, I was born in Lebanon and came to Australia when I was 10. Women in general didn't talk about their periods, especially to men, to their husbands, to their partners, or to their children. So that was a really big taboo for me. So, yeah, to not be able to talk to men about it or to even my girlfriends. Like, it took me a while to even talk about my period to my girlfriend. So just the whole taboo of periods is something that I've grown up with. And taboo just means don't talk about it. Keep it inside. Don't share.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, totally. Just don't talk about it.
Don't talk about it.
I love it. I love that. So what taboos specifically really helped you find more meaning into your life or helped you live a more honest, open, authentic, meaningful life?
Well, definitely the taboo of not being able to talk to men about my period, because that affected my relationship a lot with my husband, and I had to change my outlook on that taboo and really question myself of, how am I going to connect with my husband better and ask for what it is that I need from him monthly with such a heavy and awful period that I used to have. So I really had to own up to that and really face it. Otherwise, it was just going to be extra suffering for no reason. And then I've been blessed with 2 gorgeous little boys. So I think the universe is telling me, yep, own it even more, face it up even more, because you need to teach these boys about women and the body and what happens to us, and periods are part of that, If we didn't have periods, these boys wouldn't be here. So so get comfortable with that. And it was a lot of work, like, for me to do that. And, thanks to you, Sasha, like, meeting you, I think, has been the biggest blessing in my life. A year and a bit ago, you came into my life and I learned a lot about your work, and that really helped me dispel that taboo. And I never thought it was possible to actually even love my period, let alone be able to talk about it like that with my husband and ask what it is that I needed. So I think, that's probably the biggest taboo, and that's made such a difference in my life. Yeah. And even the way I parent, like, I know that sounds really silly, but to own something like this and to learn to love something that I hated about my body has taught me about my parenting, like, how do I approach my boys when I talk to them about things that I'm not comfortable with.
Yeah. I love that. So can you tell everyone the story of your third son?
My third son.
The not a girl?
Well, are you referring to my husband? Are you referring to
Oh, the
my?
cat.
Oh, the cat.
I
Well,
always
I
think of you
thought,
as having four
yeah,
boys in your house because the
yeah.
story is so good.
I think it's just hilarious how I own it. I own that I'm a control freak. I own that, and that I need to control so much in my life. And having children has really taught me that we need to let go of that control. So I thought, of course, I can control it with pets. And I went and got a cat. And we adopted a cat, and I made sure, and I asked, "Is this a female cat?" Oh, yeah, yeah, it's a female cat. And I'm like, I really want to balance that hormonal imbalance in my house of testosterone and bring it a bit equal because I'm not having any more children. And, I reckon I'd have another boy. Even if I did have more children, I'd have a football team. So with this cat, we took it to the vet and got its first shot. Yeah, it's a girl. That's fine. Bring it back home. 6 weeks later, because I wanted to make sure it was old enough before, we did any surgery to castrate it. Well, take it in. Yep, can I please have her? Just sex, it's not a her, it's a him. The look on my face, this poor vet, she probably thought I wanted to give the cat back. And I was like, we love this cat so much. I'm not going to give it back just because it's a boy, like it's a male. But I'm like, you know what? Thank you, universe. Again, I get the message. That's why I'm not having any more babies to try and have a girl. No, not that I would anyway. Not that I would anyway. But I just thought it was so hilarious. The look on my face. I just went like so plain going, I asked for a girl. Like this is the one place I thought that I can guarantee having a female. And he's so cheeky. He fits in with our family so well. We love him to bits. And yeah, he is another crazy little boy who just runs around like mad, just like the children, and trashes everything. And so I've decided that I will create my own retreats and have my own girlfriend get days away and get plenty of my progesterone, balance that way by just hanging out with a lot more women in my life.
I love it. See, it's a good moral to the story. Like, make sure you've got your girls, because even when you try, you may end up with
Totally. See, totally.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's just one of the funniest stories of like of all time, really.
We joke about it all the time. And the funniest thing is that I asked my eldest to pick a name for this cat, and he picked Bobby. And I'm like, how random. Like Bobby, the first thought was like, it's a boy's name. I'm like, no, it can be a girl's name as well. Or I'll call it Bobby. So we didn't even have to change the name. It wasn't like a female name anyway. Not that it would have mattered, but you know what I mean? Like it was just really funny how it all, and then they went from, and the cutest part is that my little one, he's learning his gender, like the he and she and they and me at the time, right? Because he was like, just turning 2. And I would always correct him and go, she, darling, it's a she. And the poor baby had to relearn all that. I'm like, no, now I'll correct you. It's a he.
Oh, God.
Poor confused little baby.
I love it.
So you've got to have a lot of fun with it. You've got to laugh. Otherwise you go, you're a bit crazy.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. Yeah, so it's just, I had to share that story with the world because it's hilarious.
Thank you, yes. And it gives me a good laugh every time.
It gives me a good, I've got like a little tearing right now from that. Like, gives me a good laugh every time too. So, all right, let's get back on track.
Yes.
All right, so you're stuck in a house full of boys, and you decided that you're going to break this taboo, and you're going to start talking about your really heavy, painful flow. Did you get any resistance from family members or friends or the husband or anything?
No, not at all. Nice. Actually, everyone's been really amazing about it. I must admit, I'm really, really lucky and so super grateful for a husband who's really open and really understanding. Yeah. And we're very, on the same page when it comes to our parenting. And even when we're not, we talk about that. So on how we can be on the same page. And he's seen me, go through all the painful periods and the pre-baby operations that I've had due to fibroids and just even tough pregnancies. So obviously he's been through all of that with me and understands the importance of why I want to talk to our boys about this. And he's on the same page. So I'm really, really lucky. My mum slips up with a few things sometimes, but then she's amazing because she's very open, and she's the only one really that spends that time with the boys, that I allow her to have free reign to just be with them when I'm not around so much. And so she's amazing. She's really good, and she's really open and understanding to this. My dad, I haven't really involved him. I don't talk to him about these things much, and that's okay because he doesn't need to talk to my boys about it. What would be really interesting is that as they get older and they start talking to friends in different ways, like at school, about these things, I think that's when different stuff will show up, and it'll be really interesting to see how other parents may approach me about it. So we can have this conversation down the track when they're a little bit older, I think.
Oh, we will. Awesome. So how does this overcoming your own personal taboo influence the business that you have now? What is it that you do now, and how did this really help you get to this place in just like your business and your life, the work that you do?
Well, I predominantly work with mentoring and coaching children, and then I realize in order to successfully do that, I also need to work with the parents. Predominantly it's the mothers because they're the carers most of the time, the full-time carers. So I tend to also coach mothers and slightly mentor them with my own experience from having children and going through postnatal depression and anxiety, and how I overcame that. So this massively has helped me because I personally feel like when we have an issue and we own that issue and we are able to step out of that issue and deal with it, for me, it just empowers me. Like, there's no point in saying to a child, okay, let's work on your confidence, and this is what it takes to be confident, and take them through all the work, and yet I'm not confident about something that naturally happens to my body. Right. And so that was, I quite actually felt a bit misaligned and not so congruent with my message or with my mentoring, because it's like I just had this thing hanging over me. It's like, this is the most natural thing that happens to us, yet I hate it. I'm like, I don't own it. So getting over this taboo and just being able, just to even talk about it. Like, I mentor with the Big Brother Big Sister program, and I remember the little girl I mentored, she's 12, so she's coming into that age now. And I went in one day and I was quite tired, and she joked about it, like, oh, you're not your normal self. And I said to her, well, that's because I've got my period. Now, normally in the past, I wouldn't have done that. Like, I would have just said, oh, yeah, I'm just a bit tired. I said to her, no, I got my period. And I wanted her to know that that's possible, like women, and it's okay for her to feel like this, right? And she got really shy about it and just like was ew, like I don't want to know about that. And I said to her, darling, that's going to happen to you one day, so you might as well know about it. And I just made it as normal as possible, but it was really hard on the inside to do that. Like, it was a real step up for me to be able to do that. But knowing I think for me, when we're uncomfortable with something, but we know the benefits of getting over ourselves is a lot stronger than being where we are, that motivates me to just get over it. Yeah. For me personally. Yeah. And so for me, I see it as helping the kids that I work with, for me to get comfortable with it. So it's made a huge impact in just even the way that I share and talk. And kids are amazing with their intuition if we allow them to be. So, for me to sit there and talk about confidence and talk about this stuff and me not own it myself, they would feel that on a subconscious level, I think, anyway. Yeah. So for me, I just think that raises that energy between us anyway, because I can be open, and by me being open, then that's giving them permission and allowing them to be open as well.
That's an excellent point. Even like pulling a little bit of that together and just saying, I'm giving them permission to listen to their intuition. Something that we grew up being like forcibly ripped apart from our intuition. So I think that's beautiful. I love that a lot.
Look, I just got goosebumps.
I know. I feel like that's something that you're going to have to do in the future with this business. Like that, just right there. So, and we were talking earlier, and we were talking about, what Marilou does and everything. And she has this great way of communicating with kids. And one of the things that we were talking about is the 6 steps she has for getting clear as parents. And I would love for you to share with everyone listening, parent or not. I'm an aunt to a handful of children. So what are some things that we can get clear on as, adult mentors, the people in kids' lives, to make this easier?
Totally. I don't think this just applies to parents. This applies, like you said, even to aunts, to, hopefully even to uncles and male mentors as well, because I think the biggest thing when you're dealing with children is, for me, the first step is to get really clear on what it is that you want for that child, for your relationship with that child, and for yourself as how you are also perceived. Yeah. So getting really clear on that. What does that mean? For me, it's everything we do is run by our value systems. Yeah. So our experiences shape our beliefs create our values, and we are driven by everything being our values. So my highest value is, for example, connection. And it's really important for me to be connected with my children. So when I get clear on that, like, this is for me, this is what I want. What are my daily actions that show connection with my children, that promote connection, that enhance the connection in our life? Yeah. And so when I'm living with my highest values, then everything is just going to flow a lot better. That's how we get happier. That's how we're actually living a congruent life. What do we want for our children? Get clear on what we want for our children. So for me, I had to get really clear on not just my own children, but even the children that I mentor or that I coach. For me, my highest thing is to allow them to be in touch with their intuition, to not actually rely on me to be able to do whatever that it is that they want to do, to actually listen to that inner voice, to be confident and strong and connected within. That's really, so forget that I even have my own children. This is in general when I'm working with children, this is my biggest getting clear on what it is, why I do what I do. So even for yourself as an aunt, like, what is it as an aunt that you want for these kids to have? And by getting really clear on that, you operate from a different system. And really, it's all about operating consciously, and doing things consciously around children, not just because this is the way we've been taught or this is the way, just habits that we bring to the table. So this is, I just can't stress that enough of how important it is. And for your own children, if you want to raise, or if you want, think of your children as adults, and how do you want your adult children to be? Confident, powerful, successful. What does success mean to you? Get really deep and nitty gritty into these questions and getting clear about them. Because I hear so often parents going, I really want a, confident child that can speak their mind. But then when they actually even and do as they're told, and which is contradicting what do you really want your child to be as an adult. So when you align those two things together, it just makes it so much easier as a parent or as a mentor to operate. And for me, like when it comes to these taboos, for me, how did I want to raise these boys? Like how do I want them to be as men dealing with their women or any women in their life when they're older or as they're growing up? And that was, I think, another thing that helped me with, facing this taboo of mine of not being able to talk to men about it, because it's like, well, hang on a minute, what I want is these values in my children, yet look at the way I'm not showing them or teaching them about those values. Like, how can I have compassionate men if I'm hiding my period from them?
Yeah.
It doesn't match up. So I think getting really clear on what it is that you want to see in your children, in yourself, and bring to the table, that clarity is the most important first step. And I can go on about it for a while, obviously, but I won't. Another one for me is, how do you talk to your children about, first of all, your body? I hear quite often mothers saying, look at my fat thighs, or geez, I look ugly today, or, oh my gosh, I look horrible. Even those just simple little things. When we say these, especially to little ones or around little ones, not specifically to little ones, but around little ones, unconsciously, a lot of parents I see do this. Myself, I did it. Like once I remember just saying, quite early on in my personal development journey with, Ruben, I think was 2 or so. And I said something to my husband like, oh my gosh, I just look so fat. And, it's so good that my husband went, oh, no, honey, you don't. You've just had a baby. And, like this was just after my second one was born, and I was just feeling so, and the thing is, I might feel like that, but when those words come out of my mouth and my little one hears them, what impression am I making to him? So I think it's really important for us, women in particular, and even for men, to really just understand the language that we use around our children when we talk about our body, our looks, and what it means. Because children just take these things on subconsciously anyway, and this is how we build their perceptions, their experiences, their beliefs, which then become their values. So, it's really important, and conscious parenting is not easy. It is not easy by any means, but I think it's the way forward to creating a culture and creating, allowing our children to be their best possible, to raising really good human beings, basically. I know it's hard work, but that's for me part of it. And then the other part is the language that you use talking about their body. So, like I hear a lot of mums like go, oh, aren't you just so chunky and yummy? And, and I'm like, that's beautiful. And yes, babies are chunky and it's gorgeous. But when, I've had some, especially some dads sometimes like say to the little girls, oh, you're a little bit tubby, aren't you? And they don't think about like, what is that doing to that child's self-esteem over time? Hearing that, is it okay to be told that? Like, rather than, wow, have a look at your strong body and what your strong body does. Look at all the great food that you eat, that you put into your body to make you healthy and to make you strong. Look at those beautiful legs that support you when you're running. Like, rather than, focusing on the looks. And just by using that positive language and speaking with our children about their bodies as well, connects them with their bodies a lot better. I know people used to laugh at me from quite a young age with my children, like basically newborns onwards even. When I'd go to change them, change their nappy, I would ask permission to change their nappy. They can't answer me back, but subconsciously on that level, it is telling them that I respect their body, that I'm not going to just touch them just because I'm the adult and they're the child. They're powerless and I'm powerful. Talking to them and using the correct terms. Hey, wash your penis, wash your bottom, wash your legs, wash your arms, wash your hair. It's all part of their bodies. I know a lot of people that shy away from the words penis and vagina because it's like, oh my God, that's a taboo. We don't say that in our household, and they give it nicknames. Again, that's creating on a subconscious level that little bit of shame about that part of the body for a child. So, you want to connect with your child more, use the right terminology, have a look at the language that you use and make it positive wherever you can. Like, highly recommend that. Should I keep on going? I just feel like I'm going to be talking and talking and talking.
So good. No. Yeah, keep going. I love that. That's fantastic. I mean, I love the idea of permission from the perspective of both the parent, like starting from day one, asking permission. It just gets you into the habit. So it's not something you have to unlearn when they do get to an age that they can hear. But also, can you imagine girls growing up going to college where somebody's asked permission to touch them their whole lives, and they get to college and there's just like gross men that grope them, and they're like,
oh, look at that.
No.
Goosebumps.
No.
Goosebumps again. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, if we teach that to our children,
I think back to my own. I mean, first of all, I was in dance companies growing up, so no one asked permission to touch my body ever. I was constantly being groped and moved and but then you get to places where that's not appropriate, where it's not like your ballet master doing it, where it's like some random stagehand, and you're like, I think you're a creepy old man, but I don't know because I have no concept of this. And like,
yes.
I lost count of the men who groped me as a waitress before I was even 20. I mean, I worked in the restaurant since I was a teenager, and I had lost count of the times I had my butt grabbed. And I wasn't even legal gross, like just gross.
Totally.
And I think back now, and some of my friends who are like super professional restaurant industry people, like they'll come home and tell me stories about their 20-year-old hostess that just got groped. And like one of my friends who does kung fu goes, so I taught her a joint lock. The next man that grabs her is going to lose feeling in his thumb for a little while. And I was like, I kind of feel like, okay, great, do that. Like, you have to have some kind
and it's not, and the thing is, it's not that your parents didn't do the right didn't do the right thing by, but I think it's just this new wave of conscious parenting that we're coming into right now. And the more we learn and the more we know, which our parents didn't, because my mum didn't do that with me either. And it's not her fault that these groping and things happen to me either, but also please, like with, all of this. But the thing is, now that we're coming into this better age and knowing, like my philosophy is the more we know, the better we know. Like, you know more, you do better. You know better, you do better. Always. So that's, my biggest thing. And I totally got like big goosebumps then when you actually said that, because you're right. Like if a child, their whole life is being taught about being asked permission. Like even in the shower, when I was to wash my boys, if I need to wash them, I'm always like, do you mind if mummy washes you? And that is actually, I can rant about this for a long time, because it goes into so much about, how to stop strangers touching our children. And, like the biggest thing as well is it's actually been proven in studies, it's been shown in studies that those kids that get messed around with are ones that don't know the right terms for their bodies. And the reason being is because pedophiles pick on that, where if a child doesn't know, then they are less likely to be able to relate that back to their parent, because if they just use wishy-washy words like PP, or that's how a pedophile gets a child to be comfortable with them. And I know this is a big taboo for a lot of people, and it makes a lot of people feel uncomfortable, but the more educated we are about this and the more we know about this, the more we can protect our children, which is, I believe, every parent's passion, right, to protect your child. So if we use like these words, this is what pedophiles look like. They look for in a child. If a child doesn't know how to use the right terminology for like penis and vagina and so on, then they know that their parents are not comfortable talking about that to them, and they're more likely to be victims.
Right. So your kids are less likely to tell somebody because they understand that this is not something we talk about.
Exactly.
So I'm not going to tell anybody. Yeah.
Spot on.
Brilliant advice. Like what's the trade-off of a little bit of discomfort while you get over it versus knowing that you're protecting your child a little bit more? Like
exactly. And like I said before, my taboo with periods versus getting kids to be more comfortable, like just always find that bigger why than your discomfort. And get over it. Like I do. Like I just get over yourself basically. Like that's and
which
that to me is so much more important. Exactly.
God, you're so smart. I love you.
Another thing for me, just quickly I'll talk about with these steps is with children in general, without going too much into the development, it is in a nutshell, from 0 to 6, children are all very much about attachment to a carer, most of the time being the mother. From 6 or so until about 12 or so, it's about a male figure in their life, moving towards away a little bit from the mother. I mean, it's not like the mother's no longer important, but they just, need that next step of finding that connection with somebody else, like the second carer, which is in most cases a father. But then this is the most important part, and I'm finding this the more and more I mentor and coach with children, and the research that I read, from 12 onwards, they really get attached and start looking at a mentor outside of the family unit, because a child around that, let's just say it's a little bit, I believe it's a little bit younger now, just because of how fast our children are growing and just how bright they are. But let's just say from 10, about 11 onwards, they start detaching learning about their own identity outside of the family, outside of what mum and dad say, and they start questioning things. This is where kids start falling into drugs or sex or experimentation with a whole bunch of different stuff, because they are creating an identity for themselves. Like this is, this is part of their journey and development and growth. And this is normal for every child. I know it's going to happen with mine, no matter how clued up I'm going to be, no matter how open I'm going to be, no matter how, they can come and tell me whatever it is that they want, they will need somebody else to go and speak to. And I can't stress how important it is, because, friendships don't happen overnight. When you have that child, start working on your own friendships and the people that you surround yourself with, because there will come a time where your child will need to go speak to somebody else. And if you're surrounded in a circle of your friends or even family, and sadly now we don't have the aunts and the uncles and the, that big support of families around us anymore. So for me, I've had to go out and create my own tribe with women and men that think very similar to my husband and I, so that these are the access points that my children will know that they can go and talk to. So if they have a really great uncle, for example, like family friend, a male that's very similar in our values and what we believe and what we would say to our child, they know that they can go to them, because that person would be in their life anyway. So for me, it's really important. And if it's not someone in your life, like, make sure you connect with a teacher or a sports coach or somebody like that that can influence your child in a positive way and can be a mentor in their life. And it's super crucial, because a lot of girls start getting their periods from the ages of, it can happen as young as 10 like me, but say 12, 13, 14 is the average norm. And that's when they start not wanting to come to mum. They want somebody else. So you build your foundation with your children, and you be that strong pillar in their life that makes sure that you also have that support network around you and for your children to be able to go to. I think that's really important. So, where am I with our steps?
Oh, no, that was fantastic. I don't know. That's a good question.
Because all of these things I can get really ranty about them, because they're really super important, and this is what I build my parenting on, and come back to all the time. And by no means I need to actually make it really clear that by no means I'm perfect, because there's no such thing as perfect. And by no means am I an expert, because I really believe, like, this is not just wishy-washy. Like, this is deep core belief, because of my experience and because of when I had my first with the postnatal depression and anxiety, where I was looking at everybody else being the expert on my child. And it wasn't until I had my second and went inwards and learned that I am the only expert. Like, there's books that tell you about child development and tell you about this and so on, but you are the only expert on your child. So by no means am I an expert. This is all just my experience and, the things that I've learned to apply into my own life and help the mothers that I've coached, offer it to them, and they've applied and it's helped them. I just need to make that really clear.
You're talking about going from this first birth and being the everyone knows better than me to really taking the reins, to the point that now when you get your period, you get like spa days. So, there's some perks to overcoming that taboo, and apparently foot massages are one of those perks.
Well, a little while ago. Do you want me to share about that?
I do, because this is
last year, Well, last year when I look, I think for me it's been a massive challenge being a mum to two boys. For me, I've got a quite close relationship with my mother. I always envisioned having a girl that I would continue that sort of relationship with, and having boys, I adore them, I love them. It's the most amazing thing having two boys together, but it was a massive challenge for me. And like, how do I relate to them? And oh my gosh, the amount of times I have to say, stop touching your penis, like, I would be a millionaire right now if I got paid for every time I said that, but learning about their bodies and how all that works. And so it was a massive learning step for me, and to get comfortable with that, and to kind of again go back to what sort of boys do I want to raise. And so last year I actually did I qualified as a yoga teacher for children, and my eldest was allowed to come to one of the sessions that we were being taught, and they made us at the end go around and give foot massages. And he really loved it. And I was like, you know what, this is really good. Like, it made him feel like he was being helpful, caring, obviously tapped into his own compassion. How is he feeling somebody else's bucket up? And I'm like, I'm going to actually bring this home. And this is something that I did to get comfortable with my taboo of what sort of men do I want to raise, and what action am I taking to do that. So I tuck the boys in, their dad tucks them in at night. We read them a story, we have our cuddles and so on. But when I get my period, I get them to tuck me in. And before tucking me in, they have to read me a story or tell me a story, and they get to give me foot massages. So I just put like a little bit of cream in each of their hand, and I've got two little boys at each foot rubbing my feet. And it is beautiful. It creates melatonin, or is it in the body? Like, it's just it's a natural relaxant when that happens for both of us, because they're also focusing on something. They're it's almost like a meditation without being just sit there and kind of relax your body. And I must say, they are only 5 and 3, so they're quite still little, and it's never too little to start these things. I think sometimes as parents we think like this big picture, but we really need to just we can start small, so this is how I get my foot massages. So 3 days every month, mummy needs to be taken care of. What can we do for mummy to look after her, because we're a family and we look after each other, and this is our family values. And they love it. They think it's just like, you should see them wanting to come and snuggle in with me, and then tuck me in and put the doona cover over me and give me a kiss like I do with them. And kids love role playing, so this is part of that, and you bring that into your parenting. And my value is to raise compassionate men. What actions am I taking to raise compassionate men? And this is one of them. And my husband even needs some help in this department, because men don't just always know, like, their priorities and their brain wiring is very different to ours, and there's no wrong or right. But if we want something, and I've learned as a woman, if I want something, I need to ask for it.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but a lot of women I know, and being, the way that I was raised in a Middle Eastern culture, women don't ask for what they need or what they want. So, I've had to learn how to do that. So I've created a chores list, and I've created visuals for the children. This is what they need to get done. So people, get to the age of like 7 or 8 or so, and they start getting angry with their children because they don't pick up their stuff after themselves, or they don't help with the dishes, or they don't do that. Again, you can never start too young. Bring them into the kitchen when you're doing stuff. My little one, who's 3.5 now, from the age of 1, when he could stand up and start walking, he would come to the dishwasher and he would pass me a fork at a time. It's painful. It takes long. But again, what sort of children, what are your values?
Right.
What do you want your children to be raised like? So if you want your children to be independent, you want your children to help around the house, where are you starting to implement that in your actions? Yeah. So I get a lot of parents going, this is such a slob, he leaves his room. I'm like, just because he's 16, it doesn't mean that he's going to be clean all of a sudden because you think he's older, he's going to know and understand better. If he's never been conditioned and shown the importance of taking care of his room. I mean, that's just an example, yeah? So it's the same thing, So for my husband as well, and for the children, I've got a chores list, and around that time of the month, and understanding the menstrual cycle, which, thanks to you, it's been brilliant. I've got that little magnet on my fridge so they can also see it. And I'm like, hubby, I'm at this phase right now and I need your help in this. And this is the chores list that's there for you that I need you to get done, because I'm not going to be able to do this. Yeah. And asking for naps, like I'll go in and have a nap at 5 p.m. if I need to, because my body's shutting down, and I listen to it. And again, it comes back to, our body, not just how we talk about our body, but how do we take care of our body, also gives people permission on how they can take care of their body. So when my child is not feeling well, there's no expectation from him, and he'll know that he'll be taken care of, and we'll support him, in taking care of his body as well. So I think, it's just all interacts, doesn't it? All interrelates.
It does. It
So,
does. But like,
yeah.
for our viewers listening and watching, take a note. This is a mom who runs a business, who takes care of her kids, who stays at home with the kids and runs a business. And still, when she gets her period, and in that time before, takes time for herself.
Yes.
So anyone who's sitting there going, oh, I don't have time to take a nap for whatever reason, you do. You do have that ability, especially if you're not running a business or you don't have kids and you're doing just one of these things. You definitely have time. So just, mental note, it is possible. There are women out there achieving it right now. So like Marilou says, where are those values and where can you bring things into your life to be more into alignment and actually put those values into action? I love that. I think that's fantastic.
Well, I challenge every mother, actually. Like, even with me, I'm not always, calm, cool, and collected by no means. I mean, we're humans. We're all humans, and we all have our ups and downs. I think the biggest thing is about awareness. And when we trip over, how do we come back from that and not to keep on rolling into that mess, whatever it is that we made. And the most important thing as a not even as a mother, like anybody who says, I don't have time to have a nap around my period time, or I don't have time. Look, this is a little exercise that I do, even for myself. When you say, I don't have time, rephrase that word or that sentence and say, this is not a priority. And if you say to yourself, looking after myself is not a priority, how does that sound to you? Does that sit well with you? And how do you then make it a priority? And especially as a mother, I know, and I've said this to my boys, that if I'm tired, mummy's not going to be able to play with you, look after you, be happy around you. I'm just going to be a grumpy mummy. And what do you prefer, a grumpy mummy or a happy mummy? And it's really important to make myself a priority, and I always use that the plane oxygen theory. On a plane, they ask you to put your own oxygen first before you put a child's on. And how funny is this? Because we flew on a holiday recently, and my little boy, it's just me and the two little boys that we flew together. My husband was meeting us up here. And he had a look at that in the plane, and he's like, Mum, why is that person putting their mask on first? Like, what does this mean? And I said to him, honey, this is life. If you don't look after yourself first, then you're not going to be able to look after anybody else. And so when you say, I don't have time to have a 30-minute nap, you know what? The children will be okay. Like, take the husband out of the picture. What I've done when I've needed a nap around that time, the kids get half an hour TV. Yes, I know some people might be against TV, but again, weigh up your values. Is your value to not let them watch TV at all higher than the value to look after yourself? Which is more of a priority of a value? And so I would plan the day so they don't have TV at any other time, but then I'll plan the day at about 3:30 or 4 o'clock. They get half an hour of downtime in front of the TV, and I snooze on the couch next to them. And I do. And that 30-minute nap is so powerful, keeps me going for the rest of the day. Don't use excuses, look for solutions.
I love that. That's brilliant and beautiful. And I love that you are modeling, mentoring, really living your truth, which is, it's hard. It's hard to walk your own talk for sure. But, it's beautiful.
But then there's no point of talking a talk if you're not walking it. I feel like you'll feel that in your life as well. Exactly. So again, come back with your values, look at what they are, and how do you align everything with that.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I get that same comment a lot. Like, I will post in my Facebook group, I got my period this morning. I'll see you all tomorrow. Because if I'm sitting there in that Facebook group, then I'm not doing literally what I'm asking everyone else to do, which is get off of the screens, get out of the world, and just sit with your own brilliance for a day. And it's like, even if I do feel like I do have to work, I'm still like, I'm out. I'm not doing anything that I don't have to do. And I don't really have to do much in one day. There's what can you put off tomorrow? Pretty much everything. So
exactly, totally
modeling your own thing. I love that. So to wrap us up here, you have a free gift that you're offering for women. And I think that this is genius and brilliant and beautiful. So can you give them a little teaser? Just a little
Sure.
teaser.
I've created a little workbook to help you connect with your child, and it just goes through about 5 or 6 different questions. Basically, a lot of what I talked about today, just taking you through and getting you to think. Doesn't have to all be done at once. It can be, you can just have a look at them and then do them at your own pace. But I think they're really important questions to help you connect with your child. And it doesn't matter if you didn't start it when they were babies. It doesn't matter if they're 13, 14, 16. It doesn't matter if they're 20. It's never too late to connect with your child. And yeah, I hope this little workbook gives you those sort of questions to help you do that.
Yeah, for sure. I had a sneak peek at it, and I'm going to do it because some of those questions, I mean, actually all of those questions are really good just for yourself, like just getting your own crap worked out. So I was like, oh, I could probably stand to answer most of those questions myself.
Well, I'll send them to you first. How's that?
Awesome. So let me ask, what are 3 of the top actions or the top tips that you would like anyone listening to this to take away for their communication skills?
The 3 top ones, obviously, for me, number 1 is get clear on your values.
Yeah.
And what it is that you want.
Yeah.
The second one is be mindful of your language and how you show up and what you ask of others. And the third one is, I think it's really important, is the self-care for mothers. By you looking after yourself, you are modeling how you want others to look after you and how others can also look after their own self. So they're probably my top 3. I can rant about so much more, but they're my top 3 that you can take away now.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you so much for being here and doing this with us.
Thank you, honey. Thank you so much for your beautiful work and just everything you bring. Like, this is so needed. So needed.
Oh, so needed. Yeah, let's
thank you, honey.
Everyone, you can find her freebies. Check your email because we'll be having all of the good information you need to get your hands on Marilou's freebie. And I can't wait to see everyone. I would love for you guys, when you do this freebie, to post in our Facebook group and sort of give us a little idea of, some of the aha moments you have on this. So just throwing that out there. But we will see you guys in the next interview. Thank you so much for listening or watching, and we will see you soon.